turning point in Nigeria's constitutional crisis. In a dramatic turn of events, the National Assembly has rejected President Bola Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, dealing a significant blow to the federal government's attempt to suspend elected officials. The decision, announced on March 23, 2025, comes after days of intense debate and mounting pressure from the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, civil society groups, and the international community. However, the crisis is far from over, as the federal government has vowed to challenge the decision in court, setting the stage for a high-stakes legal battle that could redefine Nigeria's democratic future. This latest development marks a critical juncture in the ongoing constitutional crisis, which began on March 18 when President Tinubu suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara, his deputy, and all members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The NBA has hailed the National Assembly's decision as a victory for democracy, but the federal government's refusal to back down has raised fears of further political instability. This article provides a comprehensive update on the latest developments, analyzes the implications of the National Assembly's decision, and explores what lies ahead for Rivers State and Nigeria as a whole. National Assembly's decision, a win for democracy. The National Assembly's rejection of the emergency declaration is being celebrated as a triumph for constitutional governance. Lawmakers cited Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, which stipulates that a state of emergency can only be declared under specific conditions, such as war, invasion, or a complete breakdown of public order. The Assembly concluded that the political crisis in Rivers State, while serious, did not meet these criteria. The decision was not without controversy. Pro-Tinubu legislators argued that the emergency declaration was necessary to restore stability in Rivers State, where political tensions between Governor Fubara and his predecessor, Nyesom Wike, had escalated into a full-blown crisis. However, opposition lawmakers and civil society groups countered that the declaration was a thinly veiled attempt to undermine democratic institutions and consolidate federal power. The NBA played a pivotal role in shaping the debate, providing legal analysis and mobilizing public support for the rejection of the declaration. The association's president described the National Assembly's decision as a reaffirmation of Nigeria's commitment to the rule of law and constitutional democracy. However, the NBA also warned that the federal government's refusal to accept the decision could plunge the country into further chaos. Federal government's response: a legal battle. Looms. Despite the National Assembly's decision, the federal government has refused to back down. In a statement issued shortly after the vote, President Tinubu's administration announced its intention to challenge the decision in court, arguing that the emergency declaration was necessary to prevent a complete breakdown of law and order in Rivers State. Legal experts are divided on the merits of the federal government's case. Some argue that the courts are likely to uphold the National Assembly's decision, given the clear provisions of Section 305, and the lack of evidence supporting the claim of a total breakdown of public order. Others warn that political pressure could influence the judiciary, particularly if the case reaches the Supreme Court. The NBA has already vowed to oppose the federal government's legal challenge, describing it as an attempt to subvert the will of the people and undermine Nigeria's democratic institutions. The association has called on the judiciary to remain independent and uphold the Constitution, warning that a ruling in favor of the federal government could set a dangerous precedent for executive overreach. Public reaction, protests and celebrations. The National Assembly's decision has sparked mixed reactions across Nigeria. In Rivers State, citizens took to the streets to celebrate the rejection of the emergency declaration, waving flags and chanting slogans in support of Governor Fubara. Many viewed the decision as a victory for democracy and a rebuke of President Tinubu's authoritarian tendencies. However, the celebrations were tempered by concerns about the federal government's next move. Protesters in Port Harcourt and other cities called for the immediate reinstatement of Governor Fubara and the elected members of the State House of Assembly, warning that any further delay would be seen as an attempt to undermine the will of the people. In other parts of Nigeria, the decision has reignited debates about the balance of power between the federal government and the states. Many see the crisis in Rivers State as a test case for Nigeria's federal system, with implications for other opposition-controlled states. Civil society groups have called for constitutional reforms to prevent future abuses of emergency powers, while opposition parties have vowed to resist any attempt to undermine democratic governance. economic and international implications, the ongoing crisis in Rivers State continues to have significant economic and international implications. As one of Nigeria's largest oil-producing states, Rivers State plays a critical role in the nation's economy. The political instability has already disrupted oil production, with reports of pipeline vandalism and reduced output. If the crisis is not resolved soon, it could have ripple effects on Nigeria's economy, which relies heavily on oil revenue. The international community is also closely monitoring the situation. The United Nations, African Union, and European Union have issued statements calling for a peaceful resolution to the crisis and urging Nigeria to uphold democratic principles. Foreign investors are growing increasingly wary, with some considering pulling out of Nigeria due to the heightened political risk. What lies ahead? A nation at a crossroads. The rejection of the emergency declaration by the National Assembly is a significant milestone in Nigeria's constitutional crisis. But the battle is far from over. The federal government's decision to challenge the decision in court sets the stage for a high-stakes legal battle that could redefine the balance of power between the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government. The judiciary's role will be critical in determining the outcome of this crisis. If the courts uphold the National Assembly's decision, it will be a major victory for democracy and a reaffirmation of the rule of law. However, if the courts side with the federal government, it could embolden future administrations to use emergency powers as a political tool, undermining Nigeria's democratic institutions and federal structure. As the nation watches and waits, one thing is clear. The next few days will shape the future of Nigeria's democracy. Will the judiciary stand firm against executive overreach? Will the federal government accept the will of the people? And will Nigerians continue to demand accountability from their leaders? The answers to these questions will determine whether Nigeria emerges from this crisis stronger or slides further into authoritarianism.